Hello! Welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, hi, my name is Gabby and I'm so happy that you're here. If you are old here, when's the last time you changed the oil in your car? Maybe something to check in on. Anyways, today we are going to be going over my March wrap-up and my April TBR. In March, I was not able to get through a lot of books. I started a lot but didn't finish them. So we'll hop straight into it because I'm really excited to talk about what I'm reading in April. So without further ado, my March wrap-up. The first book that I read on Kindle Unlimited was Us Against You by Fredrik Backman. This is the second book in the Beartown trilogy. So this one, unlike the first one, that's more focused on the individual characters, I would say is more focused on the community as a whole. Obviously, you still follow 2 or 3 characters, and they are kind of emblematic of the larger community problems and the things that are changing in the politics and the division that's growing between Beartown and its rival town Head. But I liked it. I think that it was an interesting new perspective on the town, and we got to see a lot of the secondary characters that weren't really emphasized in the first book, so I appreciated that. If I had to rate it, I would give it a B. For those of you that are new here, I don't do star ratings anymore because I think it's really, it's kind of difficult for people to understand. Like, my 5-star is not the same as somebody else's 5-star, but I think that the letter rating, you know exactly what I mean when I say it's a B. So it was a B, maybe a B-. I enjoyed it. It was kind of long, but all of his books are. So I enjoyed the characters and I enjoyed the storyline, and so I did that. Then I read that. Next, I soft DNF'd The Winners, also by Fredrik Backman. This is the 3rd book in the Beartown trilogy. And I soft DNF'd it just because I think, because I've been in that world for so long and with these characters, and like I said, the books are on the longer side, I think I just got tired of it. This one follows, I believe, Benji and Maya, from what I can understand, and maybe Anna. I'm only 7%, I only got 7% in before I decided to DNF it, so I'm not entirely sure where that story goes. I would definitely be interested to read it at a later date, but like I said, I think I just got so wrapped up in that world for so long, and because it's on Kindle Unlimited, I didn't read it. I used it as my book at the gym, so I wasn't reading it for hours every day. I was getting little spurts of it, so it felt like I had been reading these books for such a long time. So yeah, I soft DNF'd The Winners by Fredrik Backman. I also soft DNF'd Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I think reading Assassin's Blade first kind of ruined this for me because Assassin's Blade is a compilation of novellas that follow the main character in this book and give you kind of background as to why she is the way she is, how she got into the situation that begins off our first book. Essentially, the main character is a infamous assassin, and she's been imprisoned at this labor camp for, I want to say, a year. And so the prince of the kingdom that she lives in comes and offers her a deal and essentially says that if he is her champion in these almost gladiator competitions and wins, she can become, I believe, part of the king's guard, and then if she works for the king for a year or a few years, she gets her freedom forever. This book obviously is a lot slower paced than Assassin's Blade because, like I said, that's novella, so it's moving really fast, and this is the setup for the entirety of the series. I also think, and I believe I said this before, because I know that starting this book and finishing this book entails reading 8 other books, I think it's just been kind of daunting to me, and I just haven't been able to get into this. So I soft DNF'd Throne of Glass. Then I read Happy Place by Emily Henry. I'm obsessed with this book. The FMC is part of a friendship trio that goes on vacation to the coast of Maine every year, so they go on vacation. And her ex-fiance were both invited. However, none of her friends know that they've broken up, so it's kind of like a forced proximity, fake dating type of situation, and the timeline goes back and forth, seeing how she met her friends and how they are now, how she met her fiance and how they fell in love, and then how they ended up drifting apart and coming to this separation that they've gotten to. I really enjoyed the romance in this book. I think that both of the characters are so realistic in their depictions of how they just deal with all of the struggles of life and maintaining a long-term partnership while dealing with those struggles and pursuing their passions and their career, and how it's not very easy. And especially I think it's a great commentary on like long-lasting friendships, especially with women, and how drastically your life can change, especially if you choose to like get married or move or like step into motherhood or pursue your career or whatever the case may be. Like what a toll that can take on your friendship, especially if you don't live so close to your friends anymore. And so yeah, I really, really enjoyed this book. And of course, Emily Henry is the queen of banter, so it was fantastic. This book I rated an A++++. It's definitely one of my favorite books of the year. I'm going to say it now. I know we're only in March, but I definitely think that this is a top tier book. Then, if y'all have been paying attention, I'm still reading Ruthless Vows. My best friend is a nurse. She's the one I'm reading it with. And so she does not have a lot of time to read. And so we are on page, I believe she's on 200 and I'm on 234. If you watch my Weekend in My Life, I like decided to start reading without her so that she can catch up. But yeah, honestly, I'm just really savoring this book. I really, really enjoyed Divine Rivals, and I think taking this slow and steady has been good. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that I haven't gotten to like the climax of the plot yet. I'm just at the kind of the rise. So I think once we get to the main plot or the twist or whatever the case may be, like the action of the book, it's going to be a lot harder to put down. But for now, I'm just enjoying reading with a friend and talking about it, and like I said, savoring this book that I'm really enjoying so far. So Ruthless Vows. Then I read Happily Never After by Lynn Painter. This came out sometime in March, so this came out the month that I read it, and I was very lucky that my library had it in stock. This book follows Sophie, who is our FMC, and she essentially wants out of her wedding, but her fiance's dad is her dad's boss, so she can't get out of it without kind of like ruining that entire relationship. So her cousin hires a wedding objector whose name is, I want to say Max. Look at me remembering character names. So Max comes and objects at her wedding, and they form like an unlikely friendship and partnership, and they start doing wedding objections together. It eventually turns into a relationship of convenience, because their parents are both like very invested in their love lives, but they need their parents to like get off their backs because they're doing fine. So they have a relationship of convenience, and then maybe that turns into something more. But I really enjoyed this book. It was a really good palate cleanser. I was kind of on the verge of a reading slump, so I'm really glad that I read this because it definitely took me out of it. It was fast paced, like very rom-com-y, very cute, very easy to read. I wanted to know what was going to happen next every chapter. It was only 275 pages, and it's also dual POV. So I think that helps the pacing of it all because you get to see both sides and both perspectives of all the events that happen in this book. I will say, I know that Lynn Painter is known primarily for her young adult romances, and I think that's going to be where I find my like sweet spot with her. This is an adult romance, and so there is some spice, and I felt on the whole that like in the beginning of the book the spice that was included was kind of unnecessary, and it became like kind of a plot driver for a portion of the plot, and I just like was skipping like a whole chapter and just didn't think that it was necessary. But that's just a personal preference. So there wasn't a lot if you are interested in reading this book. Like I said, it was like 1 or 2 pages towards the beginning of the book and then like maybe a chapter towards the end. But I still highly recommend Lynn Painter, and I'm excited to read some of her other books as well. And then the last book that I DNF'd, unfortunately, in March was Hello Stranger by Katherine Center. If you watched my Weekend in My Life vlog, I said I love Katherine Center's writing. I read The Bodyguard, and I really, really enjoyed it, so I was excited to pick this up. This, again, they had at my library. I still really enjoy Katherine Center's writing, and it's no discredit to her talent and her character building. I just personally did not find the FMC likable, so I got maybe, I want to say like 40 or 50 pages in. I don't think I wrote it down, but I essentially got like 5 or 6 chapters in, and I just did not enjoy the main character, and so I couldn't read it because it was making the book pass really slow for me. And so I really look forward to reading some of Katherine Center's other books because I know I really enjoy her writing style, and she is like, it's very sweet, very cute, very rom-com-y, and like a lighthearted, palate-cleansing read. And so I'm just a little disappointed that this didn't work out for me. But again, like I said, it's a preference. So I think that if you like Katherine Center or want to get into her writing, I still would recommend any of her books. I'm sure they're all fantastic. But yeah, I DNF'd. Hello, stranger. And then on the last day of March, I started Book Lovers by Emily Henry, but we'll save that for a second when we get into April. So like I said, I started a lot of books, but I didn't finish a lot of books. There were a couple books on my TBR that I never got around to. If He Had Been With Me by Laura Nowlin, A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross, Time Enough for Love by, I want to say Christopher Heinlein. I can't remember if that's the author's name. I'll put it on the screen if not. But I just found myself really in, like, needing a palate cleanser. I was, like, on the verge of a reading slump, and so I knew that I needed just rom-com-y, quick, easy, fun, cute books. I also think that sometimes I do myself a disservice by reading Emily Henry because I love her books so much that I'm like, okay, I need more of this. I need more of this in a different font. It's like when you find a song that you like and then you're, like, devastated that the entire album isn't exactly that song but different. That's sometimes how I feel after reading Emily Henry. So when I went to Target to pick up the physical copy of Happy Place, because I had borrowed that from the library, when I went to go pick up my own copy, I also picked up Book Lovers. And like I said in my last video, this is the last book I have to finish my infinity gauntlet of Emily Henry books before Funny Story comes out at the end of April. So I picked up Book Lovers. This book follows Nora Stevens. She is a publishing agent, I believe. And essentially she is like the villain in every rom-com. Like, you know, in a Hallmark movie how the guy has like a city girlfriend and he's like, she's so obsessed with work and whatever, but this girl who is a small town baker is actually the love of my life and teaches me the joy of small things because she's not career driven. Nora's the villain. And essentially that's exactly what happens to her in every relationship that she has. Her boyfriend goes on a work trip, falls in love with the baker from the Hallmark movie, and then dumps her. So she's dealing with that. I don't know how that relates into the rest of the plot as it continues on. But she also has a nemesis, Charlie, I think, Charlie Lastra. Guys, so you guys know I don't know anybody's names. But that's come into play so far as well, that he's like her editing nemesis, and they kind of have like a cute, sarcastic little banter going on. But where I'm at so far is that her and her sister has 2 children, is pregnant with a 3rd, and essentially just like needs a break before she has this next baby. And so they are going on a month-long sisters trip to the small town that is that inspired one of Nora's author's books. So they have gone there to try and like relax, unwind, rebuild their sister bond and whatnot. And I'm really enjoying it so far. I will say this banter, unlike some of the other books where Emily Henry's books where the banter is like lighthearted and cute, which this still is, these 2 characters are definitely a lot sharper in terms of personality and a lot more sarcastic and like kind of verging on like poking fun at each other, like mean banter, which I like. I might not be for everybody, but I'm really enjoying it so far and excited to see how it goes. I will say this storyline did not seem as appealing to me as the rest of her books, which is why it is the last one on my list, but I'm actually really, really enjoying it so far. So Book Lovers by Emily Henry. Then next on my TBR is Something Borrowed by Emily Giffin. I spoke about this again in my last video where I had my library haul. And this essentially is about the main character is the bride's best friend, and so they do like a bachelorette party or some sort of party, I'm not quite sure, and the FMC hooks up with the groom. Normally cheating romances are not my thing, and I just would not even give this book a second look. However, the blurb made this sound so enticing that like my inner nosy girl was piqued and I need to know what happens. And so Something Borrowed by Emily Giffin. Then I have my fantasy read of the month. I typically I find myself a lot picking like 2 or 3 romance books, 1 fantasy book, and then like a sci-fi or contemporary fiction book every month. So my fantasy of the month is Caraval by Stephanie Garber. This has been on my physical TBR since November. I believe I hauled this in my like really big Barnes haul back in November, so I'm excited to finally pick this up. I really have no rhyme or reason as to why I picked this book. I just saw it on my shelf and something about it was like, yeah, we're gonna read that this month. But basically our main character has always wanted to see Caraval, which is kind of like a circus where the audience gets to participate. From what I understand, it's fantasy, so there's like a magical element to it, but I'm not entirely sure like what that entails. But so her and her sister go right before her sister gets married, I think. I'm not quite sure. and her sister gets like kidnapped. So the main character has to like find her sister, participate, and whatever before it's too late. I have heard a lot of great things about Stephanie Garber's writing. This is, I believe, an interconnected series, or like a related series to the Ballad of Never After series. So I'm really hopeful that I'll enjoy this, because I've heard that Ballad of Never After is really good, and that reading this series first, there's 3 books in this series. It's Caraval, Legendary, and Finale, I believe. But I heard that reading these first makes the reading experience for Ballad of Never After that much better. So I'm excited to get into this one. I also think because this is only 3 books in this series as compared to Throne of Glass, which is much longer, it seems a lot less intimidating to me. And because it's YA, I know that it'll be easy to pick up without needing to know like all of the context immediately fresh in my brain like you probably would for Throne of Glass. So like I said, I'm excited to get into this one. Then on Kindle Unlimited, I have The Humans by Matt Haig. I will say, Matt Haig is an author that I'm giving a second chance to. I read The Midnight Library and did not like it at all, frankly. But this concept sounded so interesting, so I'm willing to give him a second chance. But Humans is about an alien who pretends to be human and inhabits this body on Earth in this family, and essentially like he thinks humans are nuts. And not in like the funny way nuts, is in the like you people are barbaric, how do you live like this way nuts. But I guess throughout the course of the book, based on the blurb, this alien starts to fall in love with like the little things of life and like the small cute moments. And who doesn't love a book about romanticizing life? So I thought that the alien perspective would be a really fun and like maybe funny twist on this like slice of life and romanticizing your life, enjoying the mundanity of life concept. And I don't read a lot of like folksy fiction, or what is it called? Maybe that is what I'm thinking of, like cozy fiction, whatever, where it really dives into that. So I'm excited to see how this kind of plays out and how the storyline goes out. I have high hopes because, like I said, this concept is really intriguing to me, but I am a little hesitant just because I haven't had the best experience with Matt Haig in the past. But like I said, I'm hopeful. Then I have Rootbound by Tarah DeWitt, or DeWitt, I'm not quite sure. I apologize for not knowing how to pronounce that. She is the author of Funny Feelings, and I really enjoyed that. I read that last year, and I actually read the couple from Rootbound in her Christmas novella that I read in my December, that's probably my December video. I read it as like trying to get to my book goal. So if you want to see what I thought of that, of those 2 books, I'm pretty sure they're in my December wrap-up or sometime in that period. And so I had seen that couple in that book, and I enjoyed the little peek I got into their lives. So basically, from what I understand, is that the FMC has like a strained relationship with her family up to the point where like she doesn't really speak to them at all. But she has a work opportunity in her hometown, and so she has essentially decided to like put her pride aside or put these issues aside and go stay in the town for the length of this job opportunity. And the male main character is like loves his family, owes his family his life, is like a ranch hand, something like that, and is kind of like skeptical of the female main character, the FMC coming back. I don't know how their 2 stories like interconnect. Based on the blurb, it was kind of unclear, but like I said, I saw their relationship in that Christmas novella and I liked it, so I'm excited to see how that goes. And plus, I love any book that talks about like homesteading, living on a ranch, living on a farm, living in a small town. So whatever, I decided I'd give it a try. Then the next 2 are classics, and I was really excited to see that Amazon does their own edition of classics, and when you get those editions on Kindle Unlimited, not only are they like Kindle Unlimited, so they're free if you pay for Kindle Unlimited, but I mean it's not free, they're included in Kindle Unlimited, but the audiobook is also available for free. So I'm really excited about that. I think it's really going to help me get through these classics. But I picked up Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. If y'all have been around the channel, y'all know I'm obsessed with Jane Austen. For those of you that don't know, I'm obsessed with Pride and Prejudice. It is my favorite book. I've read it so many times. I just love it to death and beyond. So I wanted to get into another one of Jane Austen's books. As some of y'all know, I tried to read Persuasion earlier this year, and I just didn't really have luck with it. And it just didn't seem appealing to me, but Sense and Sensibility did. This is essentially 2 women who are essentially, like, I guess at the risk of losing their fortune because their parents died. I'm not quite sure. But they both need to get married off. And so one of them is the sensible sister who, like, goes into it with a plan and wants to meet somebody who is, like, worth her time and is going to be a good prospect. And the other one is the kind of, like, just jumping in head first and is going to figure it out as it goes and is going to pick somebody at random, it seems. So I thought that was an interesting dynamic, and I love books that have, like, little sisterly relationships and, like, dive into that because I don't have any sisters, so it's always fun to read. But yeah, it just sounded interesting. It sounded like it could be kind of funny and sweet. Plus, that means I probably get 2 romances for the price of 1 book, so I did that. Then I downloaded Little Woman by Luisa May Alcott. If you all have been paying attention, I've been saying that I want to read this book for a while because it was available as audio and the ebook, like I said. I decided to just pick it up, and I think that this is going to be the perfect book. I'm going on vacation later this month, and I think it's just going to be the perfect book for, like, a long drive in the car. And I also think because it's audio and because I've read this book before, I'll be more willing to listen to the audio because I have a general idea of what the plot is and, like, the characters' personalities and everything like that. So I'm not going to be so afraid to, like, oh, I wasn't paying attention for 6 seconds. Like, I need to rewind and listen again. Like, I think because I have the gist of the plot, it's going to be a lot easier for me to enjoy it on audiobook as well, and then supplement with the ebook as well. I actually have been meaning to read this book, but I haven't gotten around to it because I've been wanting a physical copy where the letters aren't literally, like, this big. So I was really excited to see, like I said, the Amazon Classics edition. They have, I don't want to say all the classics because I didn't look, but they have a lot of classics. They had Sense and Sensibility, Persuasion, Pride and Prejudice, Little Women, Wuthering Heights. I believe they had also, like, Gulliver's Travels. I want to say I saw Don Quixote or The Count of Monte Cristo. Like, they had a very wide variety of classics. So if that's something you're interested in, especially if you have Kindle Unlimited, I highly recommend looking into that because I think that's a really good and easy way to get into classics, being able to supplement your ebook reading with the audiobook. And that is it for my March wrap-up and my April TBR. Let me know if you all have read any of the books that I've spoken about and what your opinions were on any of them. If you feel strongly that I should give any of these books a second chance or just take them out of my reading list completely, let me know. I'm always game to hear you guys' opinions and you guys' recommendations. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. I hope you really enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!